Okay, I'm going to go over this worksheet, just a few examples on factoring trinomials here. But I actually want to go over just a different version of factoring. There's two main versions. This is the one where I'm going to show an example of factoring just common factors out. So you've got this two-term 2x plus 8, and if they ask you to factor this, you would just basically look at it, what can I divide from 2x and also 8? Well, that would be the common factor, and in this case you can take out a 2. And then you would say parentheses, 2 times what in the front will give me 2x, and then 2 times what in the back will give me the 8. Well, 2 times x will give me the 2x, plus 2 times 4 will give me the 8. Now this is called factoring here. I basically split it into the multiplication of a term times another term. Okay, this is just when you find a common factor. Now what you're going to see today's worksheet, you're going to see trinomials. Tri means 3. You're going to factor these 3 terms. 1, 2, 3, like number 1 here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And unlike the previous example where I just had a 2 term and I just look for a common number like the number 2, because 2 is in the 2 and the 8, you're not going to find a common number between b squared, 8b, and 7. It's not like you can take out the letter b, because there's no b here at the 7, and there's no number that can be divided into 8 and 7. But it still can be factored. And this is where you have, when we're done, we're going to have what is called a 2-term in parentheses times a 2-term, a binomial, because bi means 2. 2 terms times a 2 term. Now what happens here is there's going to be a number here and a number here, a number here and a number here. This front times this front will give me b squared. So that must be b times b. Okay. Then avoid the 8 for a second. This back term and this back term is going to multiply to the 7s. So you got to think of numbers that multiply to 7, and yet those same 2 terms need to add to 8. So you have probably seen this in the past where your algebra teacher said, okay, put the 7 here, put the 8 here. What 2 terms numbers multiply to 7, add up to 8? Well, you got to think of 7 first, because there's a lot of numbers that add up to 8. But not very many numbers multiply to 7, and really there's only 1 and 7 and negative 1 and negative 7. Well, if we're trying to get to 8, we've got to take positive 1 and positive 7. So we'll put a positive 1 there plus positive 7. The mere fact that I just split this up, this is called factoring. Okay? I factored it into its 2 factored parts. And in fact, if I do the box method, where I put b plus 1, b plus 7, or do the FOIL method, distributed property, this multiplying will go right back to where we started here. All right, let's try one more, and then we'll go to the back page there. Let's look at number 2 here. This one is n squared, 11n plus 10. This is going to ask you to factor, so what we'll do is kind of set it up, parentheses times parentheses. The front times the front will give me n squared, so that will be n times n. Then you go m for multiply, as for add, subtract. What 2 numbers multiply to 10, add and subtract to negative 11? Well, you got to think about the 10 first. Well, there's 2 times 5, but does 2 plus 5 add up to 11? Well, no. There's 1 times 10, and that does add up to 11, but this is negative 11, so we're going to need both negative 1 and negative 11. And so that's the answer, negative 1, negative 11. Okay, you can just put it back here, and again, factoring means you split it into the multiplication. I put a little red dot there to indicate multiplication. The front side is where you use this little diamond, and this is when the number that is in front of x squared is 1. So this number right here, there's no number here. It's actually just a 1. When you go to the back side of this worksheet, you will see that front number is greater than 1. And this is going to take some time. There's a 3 here. There's a 2 here for number 2. So you're still going to factor it. You're still going to split it up. I'm going to put the 2 parentheses on top of each other. I'm still going to look at this front and this front multiply to 3p squared. Well, you got to have a p and a p, but that 3 makes life more difficult. 3 times 1, basically. 3p times 1p is 3p squared. You still look at this blank spot and this blank spot multiply to negative 5. But the problem is you don't do this anymore. What two numbers multiply -5 and add up to -2? You do not do this version. From here, it's a lot of trial and error. Now, I put the two parentheses on top of each other, and I'm about to use a pencil because I'm going to trial and error this, and I'm not sure if this is going to be right the first time out. But you got to think about, okay, what two numbers multiply to 5? And really, it's just 1 and 5. So if I put a 1 here and a 5 here, you want to see if you can get to 2 in the middle. And the way you do that is kind of just cross multiply these parts and see if you get to -2 in the middle. If I go 3 times 5, that's 15p. That seems way too big for -2p. 1 times 1 is 1p. Whether you add these two numbers or subtract them, you're never going to get to that middle -2. Now, do not give up on the 1 and the 5. That's why I did this in pencil there. So I'm going to erase that, and instead of the 1 on top, I'm going to put the 5 on top, and I'll put a 2 on the bottom. So again, I'm going to kind of cross multiply this. This is 3 times 2, that's 6p. Oh, this shouldn't be a 2, that's a 1 actually, my bad. That should be a 1. That should be, because it's 5 times 1 is 5. So this is 3p, this is 5p, and the difference between 3 and 5 is 2. Since I want a -2, I better put the negative on the bigger number, the -5, and the positive on the smaller number. So this would be +3 minus 5. So this is our answer right here. And I can set up my parentheses, 3p minus 5, parentheses, p plus 1. Okay? So this one is going to be a lot of trial and error. So you cannot do your traditional little diamond there on these guys here on the back side.